Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, all good things. Yeah, we made it, and you made it with us. We made it. This is it. This is the last TNG television episode, at least. Last episode of that. Not last episode of this. And since you made it this far, hey, why not keep going with us? Become a Patreon member. Patreon.com/IABD. Get to see the videos of us. Get to see, get more stuff. Get to hear, not just pulling back the curtain, but what do we think about some other shows? I mean, you hear a lot of that, but hear even more of it. Hear a bunch of the nonsense. See us. Not only that, you get It's All Been Done Radio Hour, the mothership, all that bonus stuff. Patreon.com/IABD. Don't cost much. Speaking of good things, this is all good things. TNG final episode. It's all been done before. It's all been done before. It's all been tracked before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
I'm not senile.
Keith, forgot his name, apparently. Jimmy-Jerome, and we are joined by a return guest.
I know what you're thinking.
Introduce yourself.
Hi there, I'm Shaun.
Thank you for returning, Shaun. You did one of the films. Was it the sixth one?
Yeah, so basically it's my second straight finale.
Yeah.
Nice, that's true.
Great job on that movie, by the way.
I mean,
You're our anchor guy. We bring you in to wrap things up. Yeah.
is that a finale? Because some of the characters continue.
That
Fair enough.
just felt.
But it is the finale. I agree.
Okay.
Generations is not an original series film. So, yeah.
As you'll soon learn.
So you have to come back in 5 years and do what we leave behind, right?
Oh yeah, I'll be
Okay.
here.
And you DS9 Voyager Enterprise watcher?
All of it,
Okay. So you're just gonna come back for all the finales.
if invited.
We'll come back before.
You're
that.
You're always welcome.
You are.
We are talking the series finale of Star Trek The Next Generation, entitled All Good Things, First Impressions.
Well, first, no. First of all, Shaun did not oversell it as far as being an amazing series finale, not one of the best.
I did wonder who that blonde woman was, though.
I was into it immediately.
Did you hang the moon?
Say not quite for me,
Yeah.
but as listeners of this podcast know, don't
It
love
takes a
Q.
lot. It takes a lot.
I don't. Well, that too. I don't love Q, and I don't love the whole trial thing. But I will say, at the end, they did kind of the way they brought that back around to, to explore Brave New Worlds.
A nice
and all that
bookending.
stuff. I thought when they brought that back around, I was like, all right, you got me. And I will say, a lot of the rest of the episode was elements of things that we were just talking about, time loop and time travel episodes. Also, like you said, kind of like bookending it. And that kind of stuff. Also, red kryptoniting it.
Yep.
Also, looking into the future and that kind of stuff. So I did enjoy all those aspects. I liked that it did kind of jump out of the usual kind of linearness. And sometimes time travel stuff can be annoying. But I thought it was them using science that obviously we don't understand to solve it.
You mean science they make up?
Yes.
Bullcrap science.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Maybe.
That we haven't found yet.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But this was not the Q I liked.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
as fun, and I didn't like the callback to Farpoint. Well, I did like it as a bookend, but I didn't like it. Like I said, they got there eventually. It was like, well, this is what we do. We're exploring strange new worlds. That's how you. This is when they said the trial never ends. I'm like, okay, now I'm with you, because that reminded me of something my dad always said, which was it never ends. And he was like, I was like, yeah, you're right.
I think
So that I like.
to improve it for you, Steven, we just needed, in the poker game, right after they said the final lines, data to go, computer, end program. And then,
Oh.
Well, Keith,
don't stop believing.
and then they're thrown in jail. Keith did keep saying it was a holodeck episode, and then at one point I
kept setting me up for it, though.
I started to say, man, I wish this was a holodeck episode. But then, again, I thought, and the poker part was great. I cheered up.
What do you mean by the red kryptonite in this?
So I guess maybe it's just to jump forward, but because we got into the whole like, well, it's
Characters acting not the way we expect them
and
to.
accelerating like the
or-
Warp Troy relationship and
way
that stuff and
accelerated.
everything. So that this is what happens, and then
Or unaccelerated,
and then
because
at
it
the
never
end-
happened.
And then at the end, being able to say, so your what if start is perfect for this.
So it's like the character armor.
I liked the episode a lot. I thought it hit a lot of good emotional points. I agree with Steven. I did tear up in the final scene.
You said that? I didn't hear you say that.
I did say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
had
you
tears
hear
in my
like-
eyes in those final couple lines, and
It'll make you tear up.
I don't know if it would have impacted me as hard had I not already watched the 4 films in Star Trek Picard, I feel like I'm bringing the future knowledge into it.
Some of
It's like the car himself.
How much
Right.
plays in, or
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But just taking this episode on its own, I thought it was an interesting concept. I thought it was decently well executed. I really liked they didn't over-explain things. Like the fact that Troy was dead, they revealed very late.
Right.
You're not gonna.
I agree.
Picard doesn't stop and have a conversation with Yar about what's happening. Like they just run. But part of that is because you have limited screen time, you have limited running time. I did feel the rush in it. The writers, this was written by Rodney Moore and Brannon Braga, who were the young guys, but they were both heavily involved in the Star Trek franchise. They had written Star Trek Generations.
Right.
They were given 2 weeks to write this.
What?
At the end of everything's run, they actually had it shifting between 4 time periods in their original draft. The Wolf
Nice.
359 era, Picard as Locutus, that was going to be part of it. And then I think it was Michael Piller who was still like, he might have still been show running TNG, I think. But he came in and read their draft and said, okay, we need to lose the Wolf 359, keep it 3 time periods instead of 4, which is smart. 3 is the classic stuff, but I get why they would choose that, because you need you're picking the best, greatest hits, beginning, the peak in the middle, and the end. So I felt the rush on that. There were a few continuity things that were glaringly bad, but just like 2 minor things that we'll talk about when we get to them.
Do you know what we're talking about already?
No.
No, we'll get to them. There's only like 2, but they're
I'm not
really
saying they're not there.
yeah.
No, I'm just curious to know.
That I think is part of the rush of it, and I do feel like, as much as I loved how much they didn't stop and explain, there was a little bit of a rushed feeling to it that I felt this time. I will get into this deeper in a second after I let Shaun talk. The book, the novelization, which I've read it probably at least 8 to 10 times,
Wow.
and reread it this week. It came in short because they were just novelizing the screenplay, and they needed it to be a certain number of pages for the hardback. So the way the author chose to do that was to add cameos from all the important characters in TNG's run. And I would have really loved that emotionally, but I was worried I'd be mad about it that we didn't have all the cameos, because it just felt so right.
And
it
you
always
were.
has.
And you were mad.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't, because I
would be.
understand. No, because I understand they were focused on the story they were focused on. They didn't have the time and the budget to do that
Right,
anyway.
but
You can
still.
tell the budget limitations on this episode, and this was a bigger budget TNG episode. I feel like they sunk a lot of money into it, but you can still see some of the budget limitations. You also saw some budget advantages where they'd already started to rework some stuff for the film. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. Because they'd already started to rebuild some stuff, because they were, like we said, they had a 3 or 4 days off after this before they filmed Generations. It was very, very quick. So they'd already started rebuilding some of the sets for the movie, and you can see that. Anyway, overall, I liked it a lot.
Did it hang? Industrial object?
No. So I need to rewatch Voyager to see where I'd rank it. Obviously, it's better than the original series finale, because they didn't really have a series finale.
Definitely better than Turnabout and Truth.
It's not as good as DS9's series finale, I guarantee you that. It's far better than Enterprise's series finale. Sorry, it is.
Oh, come on. Terra Prime's great.
Terra Prime is great. That's not what I was talking about.
Remember
These are the voyages?
Is that another one?
Yeah, okay. You're going to come back and do that episode with us. Terra Prime is a great episode. It is.
Actually, I do remember the animated finale. This is definitely better than that, too.
But they both involved anti-time.
Yeah.
What?
They did. Star Trek Picard's series finale, though, like, I don't know. I kind of want to edge that up above this. We'll talk about that in about 10 years. Well, 13 years. It was good. It was very good. I liked it. It was one of the better episodes of The Next Generation. But I do think part of why it felt so good was the weight it was carrying.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were still some feelings of rushed and inconsistency and continuity problems that were a hallmark of a lot of Next Gen episodes that could have been better than they were. So I saw that era and that time in it. Okay, I'll stop. Shaun, your first impression.
To me, this is the series finale that I measure all others against. Like, it's just...
But you admit DS9's better.
All other Trek finales or all other series finales, period?
Sorry. I don't
all other series finales, period.
Okay.
To me, this is the best that's ever been made that I have seen.
Wow.
Also with the knowledge of having seen the entire journey of the rest of the series. So we're talking about probably not more than a few dozen shows.
Right.
I can't believe you've never watched the DS9 series finale.
It's near perfect. It's near perfect, but I just felt like we don't need to talk about DS9 right now.
Yeah,
Right.
you're gonna come back and talk about it.
It's
You're gonna
wonderful.
come back
Yeah,
and talk
sure,
about it.
yeah.
I
But
don't
yeah,
want to know yet either.
I mean, the fact that Siska
No, no, no,
and
no,
Kira
no,
got
no,
married.
none of the jokes like that. No, I don't want to, because it's always like that. But
Because then you know that's not going
right,
to happen.
yeah.
But or is it?
You're right. Yeah, it's just like that.
Sorry.
to me, even now, the original series is still the gold standard Star Trek series. But it never really got a finale the way that Next Generation did. Next Generation was the first Star Trek to really begin and end on its own terms.
Yeah.
As great as Star Trek 6 was and as wonderful as a send-off as it was,
Yeah.
like that's just not how it was
Yeah,
built
for
from
sure.
the get-go. And that they got to live out this journey on their own terms and really bring it all back to the beginning the way that they did and satisfy things not only on personal emotional level with the characters but also the intellectual thematic level with the whole meaning of what it is to be out there exploring the stars. There's never been a better distillation of what Star Trek is about than this episode for me.
Excellent point.
Yes. Yeah.
That was you said that very persuasively, and I get your perspective immediately, and I can't disagree with that. It's a really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I thought about it in that context. That's a good point.
Could we get to that same place without Q?
Well, no, because the begin.
You got to bookend the next gen. Here's the thing. I know Farpoint is bad.
Couldn't we have just
This
had
episode no.
fish?
Farpoint is a bad episode. It is.
Yeah.
It is. But this finale made me think positively, nostalgically back to Farpoint, which I think is a major point in its favor.
I agree with you.
Like all of a sudden we're like, oh, I liked Farpoint. Wait, no, I didn't. I forgot. But no, seriously, like you're like, yeah, the Q Judge thing, bringing that back was the right decision. In fact, that was not in the original draft. Michael Piller was like, we need to bring Q in and bookend it. But
It retroactively elevates the pilot.
it does.
It does.
It does.
I love when things do that, though.
The retroactive,
retroactive retros elevates.
Well, and having Denise Crosby back was wonderful. Having Cole Meany back was wonderful. Agree with you, Keith. They should not have had a guest starring beginning. Spoiling them in the moment sucked. I get that was a thing of the era. If they aired this now, they would save them for the end credits, and they should have.
Yeah.
But because of that, and because I'd looked at IMDb before of this is Wesley's last episode, this is Guinan's last episode, that's where I knew all the cameos in the book were going to be bullcrap. So I am going to spend a couple minutes running down some of those cameos because I think you may be curious to hear all of the people that are included in the book. First of all, I will say the book gave us the scene of Worf and Troy at the Black Sea before they came out of the holodeck. Because the opening was told from Q's perspective as he sat on a balcony and watched them inside the holodeck.
Oh my God.
Which I thought was really cool. Because Q doesn't show up till what was basically the climax of part one of the two-parter.
I mean, it also shows what Q does with most of his time.
He just spies on Worf and Troy, hoping he'll see a little Klingon double deck.
Yeah.
On that, not on that subject. I was going to say before.
He wants that double penetration.
Oh my God.
That's just because they don't reveal it till Discovery doesn't mean it's a spoiler.
Right, but was all right.
They
Back
spoiled
in just
on
a
prom
bit
night.
though.
Yeah, you can.
I liked the way that Q was revealed.
Yeah.
Or again, would have been if we didn't know that he was going to be in the episode. But just like that moment was the moment to like, oh right, for this thing.
There were a lot of hints Q was involved, but I agree with you. It was smart to save him from when they saved him. It was a good review. So then we get a scene right after that with Worf and Alexander talking to Alexander about possibly being with Troy and getting his approval for the relationship.
The other boy.
They did mention, Geordi does mention the vineyard he's married to Leah Brahms. And I guess one of LeVar Burton's things was he said Leah. He did not say Leah Brahms. It was obviously Leah Brahms. But LeVar Burton insisted in Star Trek Picard. I'm not going to tell you what they keep and what they change. I keep a significant number of details from this for Star Trek Picard.
I was noting that.
The makeup looks are spot on. No, I'm kidding. Of course, they don't look anything like they do in this episode. But it's really interesting which details they choose to keep and which they toss out. I'd say there are major things about each of the characters they keep in this alternate future. I don't want to get into that real deep, but one of the things they keep, and this is the only thing I'm going to say they keep, is two of the three. They reveal that Geordi has two daughters in Star Trek Picard Season 3, and their names are Alondra and Sydney,
Mhm.
which was mentioned. We don't know if he had the son or not. They don't say definitively, and they never mention his wife's name. And that was a LeVar Burton stipulation of if we're gonna come back, if I'm coming back for Picard season 3, I don't want him to be married to Leah Brahms. I don't want to see her. I don't want to hear the name because it's creepy. Sorry, and wrong.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
that they never mentioned the name because LeVar Burton was very insistent. He hated that about All Good Things.
Okay.
It's another-
And I agree.
That's another good point for a lot of LeVar Burton.
That is in LeVar Burton's favor.
Yeah.
So anyway, then we have a scene where O'Brien meets Keiko in the turbo lift, even though it was too early for him to have met Keiko because he was going to the bridge earlier because of the red alert. He meets her before he's supposed to, which, Then we have, LeVar Burton's novel. They didn't mention this in All Good Things, but they just say he was too flamboyant. In the book, they mentioned that the main character was a captain and his name was Patrick. And I was like,
love it.
yeah, that's a
That's
really
cute.
good detail.
That's hilarious.
So then Yar and Troy talk, and there's a Guinan thing. There's a really good Mott scene where he comes to Picard's quarters. The barber.
Mott.
He comes to Picard's quarters in the Farpoint timeline to introduce himself and talk about the ship. Love that. We get a scene of Wesley and the Traveler still on the Native American planet for some reason.
Yes.
Meditating in the sweat room.
Nice.
And like, I know something bad's happening. Can I go help them? And the Traveler's like, no, that's not what we do. And I'm like, but why have you not moved on from the Native American planet? That's the one that really bothered me.
Don't Q and the Traveler go to the same meetings?
Probably. We get actually quite a bit more about the Riker Worf Deanna
Wait, is
fallout
Traveler in the
of the future in the book,
I don't
which
think so, but
we actually see a scene
Yeah.
or we hear about Deanna's funeral and all that in the book, which is good. I wrote down, because as I was reading the book, I hadn't watched it yet, the Crusher Picard kiss, because I did not think it was going to happen in the episode.
Yeah, I didn't either.
The fact that it did was awesome. We'll talk about it. But then we have old Admiral Riker calling Captain Sam Lavelle. Do you remember Sam Lavelle?
Name sounds familiar, but I can't think of it.
He was a snotty ensign that Riker kind of mentored, that was convinced like Riker hated him.
Oh my God! That
In the
Lower Decks?
episode, was it Lower Decks? I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, it was Lower Decks. He was the snotty ensign. He's now a captain, and Riker respects him. And they have a conversation because Sam is retiring. And he's like, when are you going to retire, sir?
Nice.
So that's a really good scene. And then Riker mentions, I'm going to send Captain Shelby out to check on the anomaly.
Shelby.
Best of both worlds.
Blonde.
We actually hear about Picard and Beverly's wedding and mention that Wesley attended, and so did Picard's brother Robert. Yeah. Loxana, then there's a scene, this was a really weird scene, where Pulaski is serving on her new ship.
She's serving. Sorry.
And Loxana is being transported on the ship and comes and talks to Pulaski in essentially their version of 10 Forward. So it's a scene of Loxana and Pulaski in a bar. And basically, Pulaski asks, like, how's the crew doing? And Loxana's like, they're great. And then in that scene, Pulaski admits she was wrong on Data. She's been monitoring his progress, and she was wrong that he has had no
Nice.
growth.
I'm barely remembering.
She called him
Their
Data.
relationship was
Dead names in.
Their relationship was McCoy Spock. No, their relationship was McCoy Spock, but they didn't give time to actually feel there was
Yeah.
any affection between them.
Hmm.
Then we got a Barclay scene where he's having a counselor session with Counselor Troy, and he's talking about how he was recently a spider creature and he's still eating flies. And then he's also really concerned about this Romulan thing that he thinks there might be war because they're all gathering on the border.
Wow.
Then there is a Wesley Beverly Riker scene at Farpoint after Riker gets off the phone.
Okay.
That's in the book. There is then a really good scene in 10 Forward in the Farpoint timeline where in the 7th season timeline, where Guinan is calming Barclay down because Troy got called away to go deal with something, so he didn't get to be calmed down from the session. So Guinan's calming him down, and then Picard comes in to seek Guinan's guidance. And Ben, the bartender, makes a cameo from Lower Decks. He's briefly in there. But what's really interesting about that scene is Picard asks Guinan, he's like, you're tuned into this stuff. Of course. Multiple timelines. I'm slipping. What can you do? Can you help me? And she's like, I know what's going on. You are on your own. And that's all I can say.
Wow.
And would not interfere, which I thought was an interesting, if you're going to have Guinan, that's the way she's got to be, right?
Well,
Yeah,
especially
she
if
and Q are tight. She's obviously going to be.
That was it. Then there was a very random scene in the 7th season arc in engineering where Sonia Gomez is hanging out with Robin Leffler and they're just talking about what's going on. So that's kind of fun.
Hmm.
And then there was the bridge officer, her scar disappears, so that was part of that like regeneration thing. She's a Bajoran, and we get a whole backstory on her about the Cardassians gave her the scar, and like Ro and Sito, she was also Bajoran, and it's the whole
Wow.
thing. They also mentioned Dr. Salar in the Farpoint timeline that she's currently running sickbay until Crusher shows up, but we don't actually get a line from that. And then in the very last scene of the episode, when they're playing poker, Hugh is the jack, the card, in Picard's hand, watching him out of one eye. So
Amazing.
he's there for the final scene. So that's basically all the words I have for the book, because the book followed the plot really religiously in a good way. But all those cameos, that's so many people I would have loved to glimpse in this if this was an extra hour. There was no room for any of that here, and I'm sure budget they didn't even consider asking. And my first thought, and I went down the Google rabbit hole of, did they want to have all these cameos and they just couldn't afford it or couldn't get people available? And it's like, no, they cameos weren't in the script. He just needed to beef up the story, and what's the best way to do it if you're writing a series finale novelization? Cameo everybody that matters.
That's actually a good idea.
The only cameo that was lacking, and this bothered me a lot, is there was no Ensign Ro cameo. And I know she got a great finale last episode, but at the same time, if you're cameoing everybody, we should get Ro's perspective on what's happening.
Along those lines, I thought for 90 minutes there wasn't a lot of filler in this.
No, not
Like
at
in a
all.
lot of episodes where I'm like, can we get to it in this one? And it's the 3 timelines, and I feel like this is Inception ripping off Star Trek on some level. It wasn't necessarily a dream thing, but it was a little along those lines of like, now I'm in this world, now I'm in this world, and then they're getting fixed and whatever, all the levels and stuff.
Well, this is like one of my much later notes, as I was saying that eventually it played out like, for me, a really satisfying puzzle video game.
Oh, I did have a couple random notes that, because I also watched like the Making of All Good Things, the 20-minute DVD feature and thing. This is like 3 or 4 random notes, but if you paid attention, and this is part of the thing that they upgraded for the movie, is the video screens in the back of the bridge were now actually video screens instead of just lighted panels. This was the first time we had video screens in the back. And in the Encounter at Farpoint scenes, they made them look like lighted panels. But in the 7th season scenes, they let them be video screens. And obviously, in the future scenes, they were full video screens.
You were mentioning something about that during that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you were reacting to. What were they showing on it exactly? What is
It wasn't necessarily that they were showing something special. It was the fact that you could see they weren't just lighted LCARs that they popped up here and there. Like, there was actually video moving and changing and looking different than in previous episodes.
But I mean, what were they? I mean, was it representing like the outside, or was it like I'm typing on something, or what was supposed to be?
I think I just noticed in like the wide angle shots that there were things more dynamically happening on the background scenes than I was used to seeing.
So they upgraded to animated GIF.
Right. I don't know if they completed the ceiling work yet. It seemed like there was a lot of ceiling in this episode, because I know one of the things they did for the film was actually build out the full bridge ceiling and make it look good in a way they hadn't done for the series. It did occur to me that Picard being friend shy in this could have harkened back to the Stargazer stuff, and how he made friends with the Stargazer officers, but never, like, it ended poorly. Jack died and stuff. So
Wait, him being what?
friend. So Picard became friend. He was Captain Stargazer 20 years before Next Generation. He became friends with the senior staff.
Oh.
In Next Generation, he keeps that distance right up until the finale.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, this isn't explicitly said or written anywhere, but I'm thinking that's the explanation for why he was so shy about getting too close to them.
Friend is shy.
Until this episode where in the future made him realize how much he values these people. And I think that is the main theme of Star Trek Picard, and we'll get to that. But yeah. Beginning, Picard running in the bathrobe to interrupt Riker and Troy. That was, Worf and Troy.
Very first fashion. Oh, yeah, Picard. It looks like everyone's in sleepwear, and he's in.
I
he's showing
disagree
chest.
that Troy and Worf are in sleeper, and that comes up in a later scene. But
Oh, is it?
I'll get a second.
Well,
Black
you
Sea
skip past my first note actually, which is an impression.
Okay.
Very stimulating.
So, wasn't that so A Christmas Carol? What day is it?
Yeah,
Boy?
definitely. Yeah.
Like, that's, and the fact that he's played Ebenezer Scrooge.
Right.
Immediately, I'm
And
like,
the outfit, very Ebenezer.
The robe,
Yeah,
yes.
well,
You guys
yes.
are moving right past Troy suggesting a three-way with Worf and Riker.
That was a good joke. That was a really good
Is
joke.
it-
I could be wrong, but I think she waggles her eyebrows.
She'd be into it, honestly.
Yes, based on this.
That's
So then the very next scene is what I was going to mention. So Troy's giving Picard a counseling session, and she's all dressed up because she just came from a date, and he's in a bathrobe.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm like, it's like they're on a date, but got their wires crossed about what was about to happen. Like he's all dressed to get down, and she's like, "No, we're going out, right?"
Didn't you get my email? No.
Well, also her demeanor about the whole thing too, like
Nurse Agawa came into sickbay and put a hand on her stomach. In the book, obviously, they talk about her being pregnant. In the show, it was very subtle that she was just holding her stomach as she came in,
Yeah.
which I liked that. I liked that it was so subtle. Picard in that sickbay scene is really light and fun and comforting to Beverly in a way that I feel we've rarely glimpsed him. I really like how he's like just playing that whole scene.
He
He's
does
warm.
two shoulder
Right.
shoulder holds on
oh yeah, okay.
one on
That's romantic.
one on
Yeah, and I know with Troy it's not romantic. It's affectionate on both.
Well, it's not just him. So I or not just those two women.
Mhm.
I was
I wanted to see if it happened more.
Not all women.
no.
Hashtag me too. Complaints go to Keith at ibdpresents.com.
Damn it. One of my notes was that he was unusually tactile with like all of the main
Yeah.
crew,
Yeah.
especially Geordi in that the first future scene, just like
Yeah,
that.
you're right, yeah.
The shoulder holds there, just that whole, just there was something that felt
I think that was more the actor's affection coming forward for the
exactly.
this
That's
fellow
so.
actors,
That's
yeah.
it was just there was something that whole last episode feel through the entire thing from Patrick Stewart to just all
I
of them,
agree.
and you could see those moments, and it didn't feel quite forced necessarily, but it was noticeable and prominent now. It actually kind of felt appropriate, like the natural in that kind of sense. You saw the well, it's something I wanted to mention before when you were saying that the thing about Stargazer and so forth. Just him reaching that conclusion where he realized how close he was to
Picard gets a call from Admiral Nakamura. Did you remember him from previously?
Yes,
sort
I
of.
can't remember when, but
So he was the Admiral
Like
in Measure of a
defense.
Man back in season 2.
Oh,
And sorry, what?
Measure of a Man back in season 2 with Data's.
Okay.
But he also appeared in an early season 7 episode, Phantasms.
Hmm.
So he got 3 episodes. So they reminded us about him earlier this season.
Did you catch the name of the admiral who assigned him to Enterprise?
Sadie, yeah, she was in.
The drumhead. She's that awful judge, right?
Yes,
Ooh.
absolutely.
Oh, drum. Forget.
In the drumhead, he mentions prior knowledge of her, and that kind of
Oh,
fills that in
nice,
too.
nice. So that fixes the or
Yeah,
not
it kind of harmonizes
fixes,
it.
but enhances the canon.
Yeah, there you go. But real quick on the topic of Picard's warmth in this episode,
Yeah.
how about that little speech to the season 1 crew when they have
Ooh.
every reason in the galaxy
Ooh.
to doubt his sanity and like their own
So
like are they gonna survive this night?
Yeah.
But my God, if you don't believe him at the end of that, understand why they do too.
right.
So I actually that is one scene I think the novel did better. Very
Okay.
few scenes because, and I think this was an editing thing. I bet they filmed it the way it is in the novel, but Yar actually goes so far that he accuses her of mutiny.
Oh.
And then we're
Okay.
getting the scene from Yar's perspective. And then after he gives the speech, and you get into then his head of like, I could tell them, but I could script the timeline. I'm just going to choose to believe if I sell it this way, they will follow. And that's why Yar's the first person that speaks afterwards. Of he's like, set course. And then she says, I can't remember her line, but she's the first person to speak after that, which makes me think the mutiny thing was in the film scene, and they just edited it for briefness, and also maybe it felt like too much of a pushback. But all of Yar perspective scenes in the season 1 plot is she's wondering, what the heck is he doing? I trust him because he's the captain, but I don't get what's happening. And we get a lot more of her thinking in that.
Sure.
And I think she never threatens mutiny, but Worf is looking to her for leadership.
Nice.
And I just think the viewers are waiting for a moment where
Right.
people are just no longer willing to follow the
This guy they don't know.
unintelligible orders.
Right.
And then instead of shying from that, they address it head on and
Yeah.
really overcome it. And it's not just the script, but
Right.
Stewart himself. It's a perfect moment for me.
The book leans into some O'Brien perspective stuff where he talks about loyalty to captain as first and foremost, and that goes back to his episode of Next Gen where he sided with the captain who was wrong, because that's O'Brien's attitude at that point in his career. So yeah, there's actually like more of a schism there among the bridge crew of who's going to mutiny and who's going to follow. But I do like the idea that Yar is like, I'm not willing to mutiny, but I'm willing to question at this point, and then I will judge whether I should mutiny or not based on his reaction. And as you said, based on the way he treated it, she decides not to mutiny.
Right. I mean, that really should logically be a dead end for Picard. Like, there's
Oh,
no
absolutely.
logical reason for these people to follow him to that extent. Like, they have superior Starfleet orders to the contrary.
Yeah.
Let alone all their own trepidation about the nonsense he's giving them and not giving them any kind of behind-the-scenes data. But the fact that they faced that illogic head on and then still overcame it, like, that's a really nice story moment there.
Oh, absolutely.
I also like the, well, I mean, it was a build to it as well. I mean, you could, it was subtle enough where you could just see these little things where he kept kind of stepping on her toes a bit. She's this, security officer.
He went to work because of instinct or habit.
And Troy even doing the thing, which I think she had done before, probably in that episode or something similar, but pulling him aside, hey, the crew doesn't know you. Maybe you should do something, and just getting to that point where he just kind of let it all go.
Yeah.
And just here's how I feel.
I'm gonna trust him. I know you guys are the best.
Well, I mean, also like
we have no reason to put this faith in him, but by the same token, he has no reason to put that sort of faith in.
And he does.
He's doing that because he knows.
I will say though, it echoes some original series episodes where we have a crazy captain who's like, "You just need to trust me. I'm doing. You guys are great. I'm going to do this," and you shouldn't trust him. So, I mean, he's not Matt Decker, but he could have been Matt Decker. They don't know. I'm just saying, if they had watched the original series,
actually, he kind of was because they did all die in a fiery explosion.
That's true. So, I think the entire Farboy crew needs to watch the original series a little bit closer again.
That's right, guys. I believe in you. Yeehaw, I'm a maverick. Let's all be Nazis.
So it's hard to. It is very.
Steven's gonna love that one later.
While logic and taking the time to over-examine the moment makes it a little bit weak by that perspective, the emotional heft of the moment and everything definitely landed in the moment.
I was gonna say that it's also because it was it was again Picard showing his affection, coming through his future affection, just being outpouring there.
Was that what this whole episode was about? Was Picard just needed to show his feelings a little more?
In a way, maybe.
Kinda.
I mean, not the whole thing, but I mean, I think that was a.
I mean, because Q was trying to get him to examine more than just the logic and the steps. You could argue.
I could argue one of the through lines of the
good
entire
point.
series. It wasn't just like he was cold the whole time and then suddenly.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah,
he's a lot warmer, I feel like, in the films, but because it's earned here.
Sure.
Right? Maybe not so much in Generations, because again, that was written before this. But in the other three films, and especially in Star Trek Picard,
I think that's another one of those red kryptonite things, which is he like we just said, he changes slightly here, but that moment at the end, does he show up if he doesn't go through this red kryptonite experience?
Yeah.
Where he's like, oh, I really need to step up how much I value them even more,
and I think
and maybe help them not get into things.
And I honestly think that's why Star Trek Picard, when they brought the crew back, can do it so differently, because what they communicated was he was so changed by this experience, and they mentioned in the poker game he told them all about it. Like, he didn't just keep it to himself, which season 1 Picard would have done. He told them everything, and I think that made them all appreciate each other more too. I feel like they all stayed a lot closer because of this episode's events.
Do you think was that? Oh, I guess we got the hint with Riker and Worf.
Oh my god! So
I was gonna say how much could he have told them exactly? But
he told them everything. Yeah. I can't. But Beverly
it's
said
too late. I told them everything. Everything.
Okay. Beverly's line of what he told us made me think he told them everything, and I do think he genuinely did have the senior staff in the observation lounge and tell them everything, even though we didn't see it.
I think we got it from Clyde Cusack's Admiral Nakamura. So I thought he might have been in the Aftermath finale because he was on 4 episodes of Matt.
Oh, was he?
But you know who was in the Aftermath finale?
Who?
She wasn't in this episode. You kind of already talked about it. Rosalind Chow.
Ooh,
in the
I have not watched Aftermath. I need to watch.
Sorry,
I need to watch.
she was in the MASH finale, and then she was in Aftermath.
Okay.
I don't think that anybody needs to watch Aftermath.
But one thing I thought was good in this, and while we were talking about the different Picards, is when they would do the cuts from one to the other, I thought it was pretty seamless, but then they'd pan out enough so you know where they were. And
Yeah,
this was nominated for Outstanding of an individual achievement editing, also individual achievement in costume design, but it won for individual achievement in special visual effects.
Yes, as deservedly so.
Yeah, when they
Pre CGI days.
Yeah, when they was like, oh, it's his first day on the Enterprise, I'm like, are we gonna have to do the Starship Born thing here? And we didn't.
But I kind of wanted to a
I
longer
did
running
too.
time. A longer running
I
time would
did
give it
too.
to us.
So if it's
But-
a three-parter, but one of the parts is literally just flybys.
Well, no. So if you're doing the third part, you split that third part in half. And half of it is flybys, because that's 20 minutes is a good, and the other half is all these cameos.
But I will say it looked great. I mean, the shots of the Enterprise and the fucking base.
Wait, so I have a couple of thoughts. One, let me start with the one that's not going to be as distracting. But my little joke during the episode itself was more not so much the Star Trek movie 1 as much as the Lower Decks reference when they were visiting Deep Space Nine and doing like, what are we supposed to do? Just keep circling,
Yep.
play the majestic, watch the station.
Einstein theme song.
Yeah. What Steve was saying about the awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I finally got there. I worked hard on this last week.
I love it.
The individual achievements. So they're saying there was like one person who was doing these things, or
It's like 2 or 3 people, but that achievement in that specific episode.
Also,
okay.
primarily because of this episode, the 7th season was nominated for Best Drama Series at the Emmys. The
What?
only season of Star
Don't worry.
Trek,
Wow.
the only season of Star Trek that's been nominated for Best Drama. And this was not even a good season overall. We've talked a lot about this season sucked compared to like season 5.
Career achievement nomination.
Well, the Beatles number.
Sometimes it's retroactive.
Yeah, the Beatles won 1 Grammy, and the original series won 0 Emmys. So there you go.
But the finale, I'm pretty sure the finale is one of the episodes they submitted for their Best Drama
Oh, that makes sense.
thing, and yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
We see, to jump back to where we are in the episode play-by-play, we see Cambridge, which has been super modernized. I really liked the fireplace that's holographic, so he can get his communication desk in Data's Cambridge house. And this was the house where Isaac Newton lived and where Stephen Hawking lived, which further
They
cements...
said that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's holding the chair at Cambridge that Newton and Hawking have held.
A couple of things before that. A joke that I think you would appreciate. Had Mrs. LaForge noticed they were saying that she was a gardener. It was like Keiko? Did she remarry?
No, because her name was Leah.
Yeah, I eventually, because I remember Picard said something about Leah, like Leah's cooking. I was like, did you say Leah? Who's that? And I was like, when we started talking, I was like, oh, I missed that whole thing. Brahms thing. What else was there? Yeah, I was disappointed that. That's a little further ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you like Jessel, who had such a small part? Data's housekeeper.
Okay.
Edna Kosh, who's best known, according to IMDb, for Star Trek: The Next Generation. She did 2 episodes. She did this one, and she was Mrs. Carmichael in Time's Arrow Part 2. She was the same housekeeper that was when they all went back in time in that terrible episode with Mark Twain.
So there's an cameo for you.
All right,
Yeah.
so did she have the same accent in that?
I'm pretty sure she did.
She might have.
But it was a different character. But it had to be. It had to be a throwback. It had to be
All right, so did the novelization say anything about her in
just what we saw on screen. Nothing additional.
We've been talking about a lot of other finales, and we'll keep doing it. But it reminded me. So when we started doing the jump forwards, it started reminding me like Parks and Rec, which I think did it and then got renewed for another season,
Okay.
and then had to do a season in the future.
That last season
Did I see
was
that?
good though.
It was still good. It wasn't, but it was
It
still.
was the Picard of Parks and Rec.
Oh my God!
Exactly. Yeah.
I have to look that up now. I don't think I saw that.
And then 6 Feet Under, if you ever saw the finale of that.
That finale.
That
Wow.
was
Okay.
So that one takes.
Have you
this
seen
to
that
the-
finale?
to its
No,
extremes.
I didn't see the last couple seasons.
Did you watch
I
that
think.
series at all?
I watched the first couple
Maybe
seasons.
a couple of
Well
the
worth
first
it.
2 episodes
I wanna
or
go
so.
That is on my
Yeah.
list
I can
of
handle it.
top finales of all time.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
It's all 6 feet under. We're gonna do. Wait, it's all been under.
Come back to our housekeeper.
Jessel.
Data says she can be me trying when she makes me laugh, and I'm like
Love
my ex-wives, am I right?
it.
So, all of the next gen actors did something interesting and different with their future characters that I really like to help develop them as
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
personalities.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Spider was my favorite. I think
Hmm.
that Data was quite different from earlier Data, and it's mostly in the Cambridge scenes where that comes through.
Right.
Well, and then I think it's not long after that where they show like first day, and he's like, "Oh, what do you mean by
That was kind of fun.
midnight oil?" Or yeah, you wouldn't want
Burning the late night petroleum.
Yeah.
I love seeing, yeah,
It makes
them
sense.
showing them from Picard's perspective, that the whimsical thing, his from over here, that camera shot, and just like him just appreciating that. Yeah.
Let's talk about the old age makeup.
Yeah, I wrote down
wait,
at the end.
before we move on from Jessel,
yeah.
Data and Jessel are banging, right?
Oh, absolutely. He is fully functional.
Oh yeah.
God.
I wrote down at one
I love
point.
Jessel. I want the spin-off of Data at Cambridge with Jessel. I do.
I'm in.
You should would be.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't care. You film it now. Assuming she's still alive. I don't care that Brent Spiner looks completely different. I need to look up Pamela Koch and see if
Can you
she's still alive.
de-age a corpse?
Pamela Koch did die in 2022. She's been dead for almost 2 years.
Just to spite you. Just for your.
But you have a large
Into
enough.
Jessels?
You have a large enough casting. You'll find an actress that can handle the Jessel role.
True.
I don't know. That's.
Well,
I mean,
all right. Well,
she
yeah.
was really solid.
That's a perfect Olivia Colman.
Mm.
I mean,
Brad Spiner, Olivia Colman, Star Trek Cambridge. I am in. Forget Legacy.
Yeah, I
It
think-
can wait another 5 years.
Coleman's probably done enough to have earned a
Yes.
role as Jessel from that bit role in that one episode of Star Trek.
So I'm pretty sure.
Jimmy, don't let this go out to everybody because we need to keep this idea.
Not even Patreon. They just
So in
like
this version,
like super Patreon.
or is Brent Spiner the lead? Or are they co-leads?
Co-leads.
Yeah,
Are they?
of course, yeah.
Because I kind of feel like there's a good, fun argument to be made about one of the two being the leads. I can't decide which one's better.
Maybe the tension between the two actors is the premise of the show.
Let's do.
Hmm.
Let's do.
Like a who's the boss?
Let's do. Hey, hear my pitch. Let's
Who's
do
the
it.
dumb?
Let's do an entire season of Brent Spiner, the lead, and Olivia Colman, a barely seen secondary background character. Then do a full season from her perspective with the same events.
Ooh. It's been. Well,
Well, it has all been done, but let's talk
Bad
about.
who's not. Let's go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't all be the deadly years.
I think Picard might be my least favorite.
Hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Hmm.
I
Bold stance. I
see,
don't
thought
know.
it was Riker, and maybe that's my Kirk.
Oh
Riker could
no,
be-
you're right.
Riker
No,
could be.
no, I think Riker looked too old.
Jim
I do
Marina
too.
Sirtis just stopped out because she didn't want to. I actually,
I just feel like Riker needed a visit to Mott.
yeah. I read.
You're right.
Actually,
I read or-
that's gonna happen if you just
Yeah.
let that.
I read or watched an interview with the makeup artist Michael Westmore, who did it all. That every time he kept putting makeup on Gates McFadden, she kept wiping it off, and so he barely convinced her to like, let me put a few lines on the eyes and give you a chin, and then we'll leave you alone.
It's perfect.
But she
Hers
kept.
looked good. I agree, and
He said that he
Yeah.
kept trying to do more, but she wouldn't let him because she didn't want to be seen as old.
well, yeah, and I think
That's
her,
right.
It was a successful
I
collaboration.
mean, she
Yeah.
always slam dunks with her hair.
Oh,
But I thought in this episode she was like, my hair is going to be Hall of Fame. So when I change my hair in the other scene, it's going to be like, oh, she got old. Also, and frumpy because she's the captain. Also, was she speaking with like a mid-Atlantic affectation?
There we go. Okay, so there was
I
something.
didn't
Did you
get
get
that.
that from being
Well, in the
married to
future, they call
Picard?
that the captain accent.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that was my other thing. It was like,
I didn't
did
get
she
that.
just pick it up from
Yeah.
him?
She was still gorgeous in the future. Tom,
Oh,
I don't know.
absolutely.
That's nothing. It was something else. She was an affectation. It was a more authoritative
Yeah.
something that to kind of do something with the. I liked it. If I had time to like go back and analyze it over and over, and I might like pick it apart too much and go like, well, but it was enough to kind of.
And I
I'm like
yeah.
I am older now. I am more something.
Well, I'm not just a doctor because sometimes when she's
Yeah.
giving someone their diagnosis, I can't tell if she's telling them, "I'm sorry you have cancer," or
Yeah.
"I'm sorry you have cancer," and to make up for it, we should go out on a date. Whereas here it was very much like, "I am yelling now because I am in charge, and I'm using a little bit of affectation." So,
Which, have you seen Star Trek Picard? which actor came closest to their actual future look? Riker or Geordi?
Jordy.
Jordy.
I mean, it looked pretty close.
Yeah.
It was a little,
I think
some reason-
Geordi was my instinct as well.
And I think similar to Crusher, just very subtle.
Yeah. And LeVar Burton has aged so well. So well.
Yeah.
And knowing that the human lifespan has increased so much in the future anyway, why would
That's a good-
25
that's a
years
good
do
call, yeah.
such a drastic change to some of these people?
I think they aged them all up more than they needed to, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought
It's fine though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah.
I mean, when we saw McCoy at 125
Right,
looking as he did.
Yeah.
So
the deadliest of deadly.
it was almost the deadly years. It was.
No, it's interesting because of the concept of that. The standard of aging
Yeah.
back in like the late 80s. What was
Right.
90? What was it?
94.
94 when the finale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so- Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
this
then-
it
even
was
then,
different. Yeah, it was different.
God.
Well, and I thought LeVar Burton looked younger. What about the retro look for everyone going back to?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Flawless.
I
Especially Riker. Like how
I
they do
no,
that.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic yet.
No.
a lot of time.
Because it didn't seem. I mean, for the most part,
I mean, it was only 7 years, but I felt like
Maybe I'm just talking about Troy's.
O'Brien looked
My-
slightly older, but in a way you couldn't hide.
Right.
Right.
Yar and Picard and Data to me look the same.
so
And Troy, my God, did she look just like season 1 Troy?
Yeah.
I was about to say, did her skirt seem shorter? Yes, I put that in
Yes.
my notes.
I
Did
didn't
to
think
me.
so.
It felt something.
No,
I
it's
just
hard
don't
to seen
imagine-
it in a while. But
It's hard to
It could be
imagine that
that.
skirt being shorter post Roddenberry than pre.
I think the skirt just couldn't get any longer or shorter. I mean,
And or maybe she had
It's
maybe.
what if one
they had washed it a lot since season 1.
Did
so it's
My,
Did
no,
you
wait,
catch
wait,
the-
wait a second.
Sorry.
I'm saying it's like it could have been like it wasn't the same wardrobe.
oh, I'm
Or-
sure it
or
wasn't.
she
I'm
was
sure.
maybe she's in better shape or
she
something.
got taller.
There's
I'm
no
not-
way they.
Yeah,
There's
no,
no way they saved it.
I'm just doing
Yeah.
it.
No, but seriously, just
The one big continuity problem they had with the flashback was Data was wearing a Lieutenant Junior Grade's pips. And Picard still called him Commander. And he didn't react, which, if you believe he was double promoted sometime during Farpoint, because he was Lieutenant Commander in Farpoint, then you could excuse that, except that Picard called him a Commander, and that literal Data would have reacted had it not been appropriate. So Data's pips they got wrong. I'm thinking they did it so it was
Wait.
easier to tell as they were flipping back and forth that his pips have changed.
Yeah.
But Data had the same pips from beginning to end of the series. Troy didn't,
Huh.
Geordi didn't, Worf didn't, Picard and Riker did.
so
I don't know if Crusher did or not because we rarely see her pips. But I think they erroneously changed Data's pips.
wait. So you're saying they got the pips right for everybody else?
Well, Picard.
There's no right answer with O'Brien.
So O'Brien is non-commissioned, so shouldn't have any pips at all because in DS9 he wears the little like ovally
I
thing.
feel like it's different every episode.
But no, in early next gen he always wore Ensign's pips,
Good.
so I thought that was consistent.
All right.
I commented on that in so many episodes of this podcast.
Yeah.
That he's always wearing an Ensign's pips. I'm like, he's non-commissioned. Why is he wearing an Ensign's pips?
That's what they had in the laundry.
This is why they need you on the
Star
Jessel
Trek
show.
Legacy or Jessel. Star Trek
Trek
Jessel. It's
Jessel.
called Star Trek Jessel. It's called Star
The
Trek Jessel,
Jessel
which
generation.
makes it even more confusing when Olivia Colman's barely in the first season. Jessel generation. I like that.
While we're talking about, we were talking about young Data.
Yeah.
For a
Should be
minute there,
desperation.
when we have the moment where he's like, well, midnight oil, that would be dangerous. I'm like, is this going to be like the Chris Farley show where it's like, remember that time when Data?
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah. That was. But it got past that. But at that point, I
All
was
right, well, what's the question?
Yeah, I felt like there were so many opportunities in this episode.
Do you
to
remember
have
that?
just
Yeah.
Things that were a little too on the nose, but they always just took it, a couple lines further to give you something a little
Yes,
that you didn't
yeah.
see coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
One line beyond.
Picard arrives in the Enterprise D. That's the past timeline. Sorry. Oh, Admiral Sadie, as you mentioned.
Wait. I'm sorry. One of my notes from back there. I was disappointed that when Picard was on the shuttle with Yar, he didn't scream, "But you're dead!"
I did like the look he gave her.
Yeah.
He's like, what's up?
You're getting into actually, Keith. I feel like this is not my main alternate episode, but something that occurred to me as I was watching was, and this would have been too cute by half, at least. If Picard, the only thing that got altered by the timeline was Picard makes a mention to her, stay away from tar monsters. And then when they're around the poker table, Yar walks in. She just sits down.
Wow.
It would have been too cute by half.
I don't know.
What?
That's cute enough.
It would have been awesome.
That's better than my alternate episode.
Series over.
That's not the alternate episode that I actually have.
Series over. No comeuppance. Done. Yeah. Just like-
And then he says the sky's the limit, and then we go forward.
I tell you, man, things will be different when you're in charge.
Honestly, you joke, but if I'm taking over Trek, we do a story where somebody goes back and prevents her death, and then we come up with some other reason why she leaves the Enterprise at that time, and then we bring her back into the present storyline.
Because Data got her pregnant.
Because Sela,
Ooh, nanobots or something. We could make that work.
Sela,
He's
which
built just like
Denise
this.
Crosby pitched, was an interesting character, but not nearly as interesting as Yar could have been.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have Yar than Sela. Either way, Denise Crosby deserves to be in New Trek. Period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is
Anyway,
Sheila dead?
no, she's not dead.
No. My point is maybe you could still.
Buddy, she's not even born yet.
Did you notice the wood paneling on the first season Enterprise D bridge that was not there in the seventh season Enterprise D bridge? I did. There were a couple of key things they did to make season 7 bridge look like season 1. One was the laid back chairs, which they brought back, which we got rid of after season 1. And one was they added back the wood paneling from the first season that they got rid of during the series.
Awesome.
I love that they took the time to redress the bridge for all 3 eras.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as much as they skimped budget in certain areas, that was someplace you should not have skimped. And they didn't. They did it. They made 3 distinctly different Enterprise D bridges.
And that's the thing that you can do when you end your show on top of the ratings like that.
That's true.
Like, here's what we want. You know, we'll end now, but here's what we want.
They only ended to make films. They were not canceled. They ended because they said it's time for us to transition to films.
Interesting.
It was
Seinfeld
it was huge ratings. It was very successful.
Didn't know that.
It was the #1 show on television for multiple years at a time where it was syndicated, so it was picked up by like
Right.
local syndicates like the local Fox rather than guaranteed a slot nationwide.
That's like the wealthiest person in your neighborhood is homeless.
Right, like it seriously, because everything else that did well was on a dedicated network that had a dedicated air date, but Next Gen was #1.
Interesting.
And interestingly, first of all, Next Gen was supposed to launch the Paramount network that they abandoned and ended up syndicating it. Voyager did launch the Paramount network that finally happened, and for a while, Voyager was the #1 show on satellite television.
Wait a minute. Wait. Well, okay. I didn't realize it was like
Yeah, there is a
Paramount
show
Network
called
before.
Voyager coming soon.
Keith's favorite tracks, I think.
Actually, it is. But
I thought-
Paramount, I didn't realize there was like a network before Paramount.
There,
purchased it.
yeah, UPN.
UPN.
Oh well. Okay. Right.
They tried to launch one in the 80s,
I
and
think this
Next
goes
Gen
even as far back as Star Trek Phase 2 before the motion
Phase.
picture.
You're right.
Mhm.
They tried to launch a network of Phase 2 that fell through. Then and Star Wars blew up, so they did the motion picture instead. But then they tried to relaunch a Paramount network around the time of Next Gen, and that fell through. So then they sold it unsyndicated rights. Picard and Beverly, when she told him like, "You don't speak to me on my bridge like that," and he said, "Yes, sir." I loved that so much. It was very flirty. And then we got the kiss. We got the kiss of them
Finally.
where they got flirty in the season 7 timeline. I did not expect that, and I'm even more mad now the movie's never really followed up on that in
Yeah.
any consequential way.
Well-
Star Trek Picard does follow up on that plot thread, but the movies don't.
For the record, I liked it even because without it being flirty. I just liked
Mm.
just to give you a chance to do something, to stand up for
Give us
yourself
a
and do
moment.
something like I've regressed. I'm in charge.
Yep.
You want to stand. I acknowledge that.
I think this came much more through in the books, but old Picard, even with the time shifts Q was making, was really suffering from the syndrome where he every time he was in the old body was cloudy and confused and having trouble following what was going on.
I made a note of that actually. There were times. I mean, especially as in the earlier parts of the episodes.
Yeah.
They played that just enough.
It wasn't just him protesting. He
Yeah.
was genuinely having those confused.
You could see that he couldn't expressed himself as well as in the earlier
Right.
timelines. And it would have just I had like several notes about that, just like how I was laughing as we were watching, but it was a certain kind of laughter where it's sort of this is uncomfortable, kind of funny in that way, but at the same time, God, I can feel
Yep.
that coming, that idea of like you're going to be at this point where people aren't going to believe you because of this other thing, and you can't you you know what they think, but you can't say, but no, I know that I know you're saying, but this isn't this. This is
Yep.
this. I'm that kind of that frustration you're gonna and
I want to mention there was a guest actor named Tim Killier that played Lieutenant Gaines in one of the 3 timelines. He has other Trek credits, so we're gonna see him as a separate character on Voyager and a separate character on Enterprise.
hmm.
Even
Do
though
you
he got
recall
this.
what he did in this one?
That's a maybe, I
Okay.
think.
No, that's a definite no. That is a definite. That is a. I think he was in the future timeline. Hang on.
I'm sorry. What was
Because remember that guy in the passageway that was a douchebag to Picard when he asked for
No. Lieutenant Gaines was the bridge officer in the future Enterprise D that was right behind Riker at the tactical station, the big arc.
Okay.
So he's got a couple other Trek credits that we'll get for him. Picard. So in. Sorry, I guess I have another novel note, but
dare you?
I was passed. But there's that scene where Q's answering yes and no questions, and Picard asks if something about like, are you the one making me slip through time? And Q says, "I'll tell you. Answer if you promise not to tell anyone." And in the show, he doesn't wait for Picard to answer; he just whispers in his ear. In the book, Picard promises not to tell, which then I'm like, but then he tells everyone in the 7th season and in the future. So he breaks the promise to Q. But in the show, that continuity problem doesn't exist because he doesn't promise. Q just tells him anyway.
Was that one of the things you were referring to at the beginning of the? You mentioned like a couple of glaring problems.
No, that's not a problem.
He never
because
does
the way they
mention
fixed
Q's
it.
involvement.
He does for the 7th season and for the future, right?
He addresses Q directly in the 1st season.
Right, but they don't
But
know
he
who
never
Q
addresses
is.
to any of the 3 crews.
I thought it was pretty clear, at least in the 7th season, that he'd fill them in like a briefing or something. I thought it was at least hinted at.
I mean, it seems very conspicuous in its absence. Like you would feel
Interesting.
like he could easily drop the Q card at any point, especially when they're questioning his sanity.
In the book, he definitely does tell them. I'm pretty sure, but in the 2 later timelines,
there was
Anyway.
there was something. I wish it was.
he does say we're gonna stop whatever, and Picard's like, "You're gonna stop our trek through the stars." Love that.
Oh,
I knew Keith
remember
would
that.
thoughts on that.
I was
Oh, I did write down. Oh, good. Q's here.
So, for the record, am I the one who likes him the most, or like the concept of
Like
that?
Q.
I love Q.
Just that I don't.
I like Q more in Voyager than Next Gen, though.
No, of course, yes, of course, but yeah,
Steven will get a chance to
the
figure it
fracking
out.
course.
yeah.
I mean, of course, I love him in DS9 because Sisko just punches him out and he never
Yeah.
comes back.
Have you guys done that one already?
Yeah, oh yeah,
But it hasn't hit
That was
the
season
network
1.
Yeah.
That was season 1.
Yet. It hasn't hit the network yet.
Oh, it has. It definitely has. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was season 1.
Just
It hit like a year ago.
I guess I have a tolerance for certain godlike beings and those sorts of Deus ex machinas in a way sometimes, but just
Yeah.
playfulness of it.
No, I like you.
Okay, there was something we broached that subject earlier on in the episode about the idea the idea of him being not as fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a little bit more of a tell not show and that sort of thing as far as Picard saying, there's an earnestness about him, like it's like there's something sudden so serious about him that it was more believable. But
He does say, "Oh, well, I'm just following the orders of the continuum." At one point,
I just love the chemistry between he and Picard.
Yes. No, I thought the chemistry was there. I thought he was playful enough, but I guess there was something about it, but it was appropriate. It fit. There was something more focused. He was there to serve a purpose. He was moving the conversation along.
mine always gets into I don't like the testing, and they're like, "Well, the whole series is." But like I said, I feel like at the very end they kind of fix that with well, yeah, that's the whole idea is you guys are going to figure it out. And that I'm cool with. But just the talking about the testing and all that nonsense. And he does a lot of like the thing we talked about where it's like, well, I can't tell you. And I think when it's fun, I enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying it enough here because it still felt like, and it was just like, I wanted Picard to be like, well, why don't you just tell me the movie you want to see? You know, it's just like, why are we doing this?
No, I get it. When you would put, I see it now. I see it now.
Question set up, and again, like you guys were saying, like, that exchange. Even though I don't like the overarching part of it, the actual delivery of it, because it's two good actors and roles that they know. That part I did.
So not finishing all 10 questions.
That
was
too,
wonderful.
That too. Yeah,
it was wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So no, I see what you're saying. Sometimes it's the conceit of there being this that kind of
that breaks the storytelling for you.
Yeah, it's just like is this necessary? Like if it's fun enough for me, then I don't care. And if it's not, if it's just like
the rule of cool,
the arbitrariness bothers me. If not, because it's like, well, you can do all this, but you can't do this, and that's why I did appreciate him saying like, well, and it could just be like, well, my manager won't. Like, I tried to give you the deal. But my manager won't.
It was essentially.
Yeah.
It was essentially Q was going behind his manager's back.
Right.
Because he loves Picard.
Where he's like, okay, yeah, you know what, I'm going to cut you.
And he basically said, like, I'm the one helping you. And they didn't tell me to help you. I'm helping you because I care about you.
At the day, he's still the great Gazoo to me. So
I will say.
You should say that. I have a note in there about that.
Dumb. I just wish you'd call Picard dumb.
Right there. The note was when in the trial, like, and your puny mind is dumb.
How about you obtuse piece of flotsam?
Yeah, that was good. I did enjoy it.
I didn't catch that.
If I'm making a list of my top 5 Q episodes of Star Trek of all time, we've only seen 1 or 2.
Okay.
So I hope you come around on him.
Have you watched your favorite?
More now than I did. So.
I have not ranked them.
Okay.
So I'm just like pulling out of my butt.
So you don't have a hard and fast favorite?
No.
All right, fair enough.
I'm just saying I liked him more in Voyager. I liked him more in Picard. Both. But I liked him in Next Gen overall. Although I think this was a really strong episode for him. And of course you gotta love the Robin Hood episode.
Right. So wait, to finish.
I'm not a merry man.
To finish my thought about that. Is I get the idea. I agree when it's like the idea of like, oh, I know the answer, but I won't tell you. Like the guiding thing you were saying in the novelization. It kind of fits there, but that's frustrating. When it's like, hey, you know what I'm saying.
Just tell me the movie you want.
Yeah.
But I also like how it speaks to Q's personal faith in Picard as an individual.
Yes.
Even though I can't help you on this case as far as the continuum is concerned, I know if I do this other thing to you, you'll figure it out on your own. I just believe in you like that.
And that's the thing, like Next Gen only hints that he might have a special affection for Picard. Voyager just leans into his affection for Janeway. And Star Trek Picard leans into his affection for Picard. That's part of why I like those appearances more.
Is there any fanfic on that?
I am sure there is. All the Kirk and Spock sexual fanfic, I'm sure there's Picard and Q. And I still...
1 or 2, maybe.
I still kind of think, and maybe I'm an outlier, but I still kind of think they had kind of a romantic relationship. I do.
Q and Picard.
Oh, absolutely.
This thing,
we'll talk about it again after Star Trek Picard and decide if it happened or not.
Keep saying, like, I'm the one who destroyed the timeline. I did this thing, and
I'm the one who knocks.
Yeah, and I was like, does that feel more like, oh, this is to make him look more insane, or is this just the narcissism of Picard?
Both.
Okay.
We've talked about Picard's arrogance.
Because I'm like, dude, come on.
We have talked about...
I did this. I destroyed everything. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to fix this.
I will say Star Trek First Contact made me think he was a bit arrogant. But it wasn't until Star Trek Picard Season 1 where I was like, oh, Picard is really arrogant.
Would you be if you were Picard?
But the Admiral, but the Admiral's line, I've mentioned this in front of you before, Jean-Luc, you and your effing hubris. I was like, that just realigned everything I've seen before, and she's right. She's right. He and his hubris.
But it's just kind of the thing with both Kirk and Picard, like, they've earned that hubris, you know? And if you're not going along with him at this point, maybe it's your hubris that needs to be put in check.
entirely
I
wrong,
know.
but kind of think the Admiral has a point. It's probably why I like Todd Stashwick's character so much. Anyway, future.
I do want to ask Steven a quick question as our resident Q skeptic.
Yes.
For all his various impacts on the story, I can definitely sympathize with why that wouldn't work for a segment of the audience, but do you find his performance as Q compelling, John
No.
Delancey?
I mean, yes, I do. I enjoy him. I enjoy the actor. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's not. It's the
Godlike beings.
godlike being
Yeah.
testing
Right.
humans that I hate. Him and the actor, yeah, delightful. Like I said, there's several episodes where if I laugh a lot, it's a good Q episode. If I don't laugh as much like I did tonight, not necessarily. Obviously, this was a good episode, but then I'm not as into him. So
Fair enough. Okay,
especially
I just
when-
had to know because to me he's just like so damn good in that role. Like,
I guess the closer he is to Great Gazoo, the more I like the episode.
okay,
As
Well,
Oh, that was the opposite.
I'm looking
Great
forward.
Gazoo, because then if he's calling people dum dum, I'm in. If he's just like, you Earth creatures are not doing what you should, then I'm not as.
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to see what Steven thinks of future Q, for sure.
yeah.
And
This right here is my favorite episode with Q in it, but my favorite Q episode is Deja Q where he loses his powers and the whole crew is just like hazing
my
him.
favorite. Yeah. Is Crusher ship in this? It looks like
The
a
USS
giant
Pasteur.
phaser.
It's an original series ship design they updated.
Okay.
Daedalus class.
Yes. Yeah.
See,
The ball?
There needs to
Yeah.
be like a special episode with you two just like talking about random things just to get just like. I love
If
this
if
so
you
much.
two drop dead, Sean's just gonna be recording himself. I mean, he can come as much as he wants. Future Worf is totally Marty McFly, right? Like they had to impute upon his honor, but it was basically like Picard, "Are you chicken?
Mm.
Oh, well then I'm coming now."
I'm just glad we got.
It's
to
always
Worf,
been
yeah.
Worf though. Let's be
I
real.
know. I
And
like
that
Worf.
to me is maybe the defining moment of something that just seems cliched, but then they push it just that little bit further.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I-
agree. Yeah, because then they that's another one they write it because I was like, oh great, Klingon honor, we get it. But then that extra little bit.
They
you're
lean in.
Exactly right.
They-
Yeah.
I'm
they
also
make
on
it fun-
record of-
They make
I'm
it
good
fun.
with
I mean, yeah, they're kind
I'm also on
separate.
record that DS9 Worf's better than Next Gen Worf. Sorry, he is.
Nothing wrong with that. He's funnier on TNG.
I disagree.
Okay.
Well, it's all right. Well,
Anyway,
it's- yeah.
I felt like they understood
No.
the character better on DS9, where they could do the funny and the drama back to back and
Mm.
just seamlessly switch back and forth.
What is Worf like a clown?
And I think the next gen movies then stole that formula. Anyway, we'll get there. We meet the Romulan. In case you didn't realize, that was Tomalak, who has been in Commander Tomalak.
Been a lot.
Andreas Katsoulis has been in 3 previous episodes. In season 3, he was in The Enemy and The Defector.
Same character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh.
And season 4, he was in Future Imperfect. So this was his 4th of 4 appearances. I like that we've had an old Romulan come back. We're not going to do a bunch of cameos. Tomalak was a good choice.
He was so much fun.
Yeah, he always
my
is.
note there was both captains want to pick at the present. It was like, you know what? Okay, it was that sort of thing. It wasn't quite explicitly said, but it was like, I get to be the other ship. We
Yeah.
we can both do this.
I was
That's okay.
honestly disappointed that we didn't get more Tomalak in this episode. It was too little.
In general, like not even just this episode. Every
True.
episode he was in, you never
Mhm.
see him anywhere but just a view screen.
Yeah.
And it's such a good performance,
I
like
know.
a juicy role. I wish we got a
This,
defining Tomalak episode.
I just thought this episode more than others felt like you were being cheated out of Tomalak because it was such a small part that I really wish he would have been better ingrained in
Such
the
a
plot.
tease.
So
I know.
like a Cardassian, actually, kind of like something kind of that.
I
that feel,
don't
yeah.
disagree.
But hey, you had to have a Romulan. Why not go for him?
Absolutely. Old Q's makeup.
That was fun.
I mean, that was the one they did exactly the same in Star Trek Picard.
Hmm.
No, I'm kidding. That was the joke
was like,
that
wait a
occurred to
minute.
me at the moment was I really wanted to say that was the one they did exactly the same.
Right down to the little horn.
Well, right down to the horn. Star Trek Picard, he's got the horn the whole time. It's
You call
crazy.
that,
That's
but I
fantastic.
loved it.
No, it was really good.
Hey, Shuddy. It's almost like he's just making fun of even like just the idea of having aged makeup and like the
Truly.
whole thing, just like
Makes
this.
me think of the Family Guy thing, Carol.
Yep.
They're talking about you, honey. What? They're talking about you on the TV.
Jordy's eyes, new contacts, looks good.
Yeah.
Not dissimilar to where we'll see him later.
Mm.
Yeah. I feel like they took this up. One of the things they carried forward. Oh, Agawa. I
Agawa.
know it was brief, but I felt for her that she
Yeah.
lost the baby. Like that was
Oh,
rough.
yeah.
And
But
she's not a character
did
that
she-
earned a
did
bigger
she-
part in the finale, but I felt like they did her right in the finale by including this little story arc.
That's true.
Sure.
That's true. Yeah.
I wish overall she got more, but
Yeah.
given her role in the series, she got more than most did.
Yeah, that's a complaint about the show overall, not necessarily this episode.
Right.
And she got done better than any other reoccurring character in the finale.
Mhm.
Other than maybe O'Brien. Sorry, I
See
know
him
that's
next
screwing up my
episode.
audio.
Was that?
Next
Well, you'll see
episode.
him next episode of this podcast.
No, because the next episodes are TNG season 7 wrap up, then the TNG series wrap up. So give it 3 episodes.
Fair enough.
You should do that. I don't know.
I want to know when they said Worf communicate our surrender in the future, and then he just spoke some Klingon. Did he surrender or did he goad them?
That's what I.
They got that new Samsung AI. We can just
Right.
translate it live.
Right.
No, I'm sure he did surrender because I liked the hesitation before he did it. But in the moment, because there were no subtitles, I'm like, maybe he just told him to pee off, and that was their reaction.
I'm sure Memory Alpha would hook up the real translation.
Yeah.
In the book, it was definitely a surrender. But
Whenever anyone says surrender on Star Trek, I just think of Wrath of Khan immediately, and I just think, well, you're going to surrender, and then you're going to work out some kind of trick. You're going to take over their shield.
I don't like to lose.
And when they have translators anyway, I mean, when they understand English, should they have said it? You know.
You would think.
Yeah.
So Winwich Colby, one of our regular directors, directed this, and I thought he directed all 3 eras distinctly and did some really cool directing shots in this. There were some moments especially like zoom-ins and stuff that felt different than the average TNG
He's
episode.
my MVP of the episode. He was superb.
Oh, he was so good. It was well directed for sure. No complaints about the direction. Yeah, I can't read that note, so I'm just skipping. Worf and Riker, future Worf and Riker's fight. Then we get the scene 3.5 billion years ago in France.
Oh.
It's not where life started, right? Didn't we think it was like the valley? Egypt? Was it like around Egypt,
Yeah.
Middle East?
Yeah.
It wasn't France.
It could have been. I feel like it could have been like
Mesopotamia.
multiple places at the same time around.
Q specifically said it was
I mean, you're
France.
talking
No,
about
I'm saying that it
civilization. We're
could
talking
also
about
be like-
millions, if not billions, of years before
We're
that.
talking billions. We're talking 3.5 billion years ago.
That's supposed to be Egypt?
No, he said it was France. But I'm saying, man, life did not
in
start in
the-
France,
right.
but Q said it did.
Okay.
I'm saying that it's probably could probably have sort of like multiple places at the same time.
I just thought the whole world was ocean at that point.
No, this was not when the whole world was ocean. I will say I'm probably
Well,
being
when things are coming up on
Like
the-
single-celled life.
by saying
Yeah.
so. I'm thinking the early birth of mammals and humankind probably started in Egypt and Mesopotamia. So France may have been life overall. Like we
that
don't
was
know.
like-
The primordial goo.
The primordial ooze. Oh my god, that was so gross when his hand was up and it was. Oh god.
I thought it was the tar creature at first. I thought that
You thought it was Artemis
I thought it was a nice
or
cameo.
Artemis, whatever. Oh,
That would have been fun.
that cameo, and then Tasha Yar just could spit out 3.5
Yeah, I was
years.
like, oh, she lives. Yeah.
Just Q, like the whole thing was Q comes on, does a little jig, like ha ha ha. This whole thing was oh break. Back to your regular scheduled program, you know. It's like
So here comes one of the one really glaring continuity issue with this episode: the tachyon pulse. At one point, Data says it looks like it's just 3 tachyon pulses from the Enterprise because they're identical.
oh that.
So,
Yeah. I know.
first of all, I'm like, how has it never been upgraded? Because there's been so many other system upgrades. But even if you can suspend that, the first pulse was from the Beverly ship. What was it called?
Pasteur.
The Pasteur, not the Enterprise.
Okay.
That was a
I thought
rush
they
through
were
and not
on
fix
the
it.
3 nacelled Riker ship at that point.
Not when
They
they
didn't have
sent
the
the
equipment
tachyon
for
pulse.
it
No,
on
they did
Christmas.
not. They did not send the tachyon pulse from Riker's ship because as soon as he picked him up, he left. It was the Pasteur that shot the tachyon pulse that started things.
I could swear they literally didn't have the equipment to accomplish it.
The Pasteur? No, they didn't have the
They
equipment
didn't say-
for something else. But
The
to shoot the
scanning or something like
tachyon
that
pulse,
was like
Data
the-
did from the Pasteur.
Hmm.
And then the warp core breach combined with the tachyon pulse is what created the anomaly.
Hmm.
Because they had been shooting the tachyon pulse and then the core breached. So they had weakened the between time and anti-time. But the Enterprise D future version, which is so weird and souped up, with the third nacelle and the extra thing at the bottom of the saucer. It's
I didn't catch
really
that part.
weird that Future Trek kept the Future Enterprise D. I mean, I don't know why they kept it.
Because
Eventually it's
it's
just
because there's an
in the
admiral
Does it?
right there. Riker said, you know.
No, we never see it again.
I didn't.
I like to fake out Keith by asserting that something is real that's not.
Wait, which part?
The future Enterprise D, we definitely see in all the films.
No, I know that much at least.
It was a stupid
With
upgrade.
each movie, there's another nacelle added.
Yeah, eventually
There
it's all
should be.
themselves.
They should. They didn't have the budget to design a new starship,
But no, that's
so we couldn't do. Even though by this point they knew. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to say more.
no. Certainly we can't get it. But it's a strange choice, isn't it?
It's so strange.
Mm.
It had to be budget. It was like, we've got this model, let's add a couple things to it.
Hmm.
Anyway.
When they went warp 13,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
there's
it's supposed to be infinite velocity.
we know from Voyager that 9.99 is the max.
Or rather, we will know.
Or you turn to salamanders.
Or we will have
The explanation I saw for-
we will have preached.
The explanation I saw for that is different eras of Trek have different warp scales. The original series
They
warp 5
definitely
is
exceeded
definitely
10 in the
different than
original
TNG's
series.
warp 5. So
Hmm.
warp 13 and Beverly's in the 25 years in the future could be very different.
But that
Or
yeah
maybe
that,
it's just
that
'cause
timeline
girls
doesn't
can't
even
drive.
happen though technically. So
No, that's just
we-
Troy who can't drive. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Twice.
Oh my
Twice!
God. No, seriously.
You hate to see it, you really do.
The 13 number that doesn't come up again, does it? Though, does it? I mean,
No.
Yeah.
Again, another note I can't read. Troy dead. They picked the right moment to reveal that. Like,
Mm.
I assume if you're watching for the first time, and I was able to like objectify and put myself in that mindset of, you have to be wondering where Troy is when everybody else has shown up.
Mm.
And the tension between Worf and Riker is hinted at but never explained until that scene. And man, that scene would have hit so hard had I not already known, I think.
Hmm.
Can you remember back to when you first watched it? Did that like, oh God, Troy's dead? Did that hit you?
I definitely can't remember the first time that I watched it because I was like 10 or 11 years old.
Well,
What?
But yeah, watching it now, even just kind of the subtlety threading that needle with like what should be a big moment, I wouldn't want to say they breeze past it, but they don't really dwell on it either. It's just
Which is
right.
good. Yeah.
And because so much is being packed into a short time span here, and you are seeing her in the other time frames, you don't really have time to stop and wonder where she is in that third one. At least I don't feel like I'm wondering.
we did, because the first timeline, it made sense why half the crew wasn't there, because they weren't there, right?
Hmm.
For Farpoint. Middle timeline, obviously everyone was there.
Really? Wait.
Yeah, in Farpoint, Beverly and Riker and Geordi, they hadn't picked up yet because they were on Farpoint Station.
Wow. Right.
So that gives a good, convenient excuse why half the main cast is missing. And Wesley, technically. But the future timeline, you get everybody one by one. So by the time Troy's the last one
Okay.
hanging, I think even in the book, the first time, I was like,
Sure, you got a lot more time to wonder over the book.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, not that much. It takes like 3 hours to read that book. It's such a short book.
If you're.
I think you get one by one, you're waiting for the 7th shoe to drop.
Mhm.
And the fact that it's like, nope, she's dead, is rough. Steven,
Yeah.
this is your first experience. How did that feel when you learned that Troy's not going to show up in the future timeline?
Well, it made me think of Imzadi, so I got into that, which obviously I didn't like it there either. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I feel like maybe that's why they gave her such a prominent role at the beginning of the
they-
finale, because they knew she wouldn't be in the future.
Oh, that makes sense.
I sold action figures of those 6 characters in the future timeline.
oh wow.
In
Yeah.
nightgowns and everything.
I had
And then
3 or
Troy's was
4
just
of
an
them.
empty plastic
That's what I was
package.
gonna say with the death.
I really wanted to. I really thought that would be a great meme if you had an empty plastic package. That occurred to me as we were watching. I love that same wavelength. Old Riker is just a jerk, right? We could all agree old Riker is awful.
He's the classic Commodore.
He is.
Yeah.
Eventually comes around. It's just
Once you get promoted past captain, it's over, man.
Yeah,
Pack
always.
it in.
And actually, so my ordered episode is a Shades of Grey compilation of all the
No!
all the bad decisions made by Admiral
All the
Riker. Where he's like,
Admiral.
we can't.
Yeah.
All the decisions where he's like, no, we can't help this. No, Enterprise, we can't help you with this. Blah blah blah. You know,
Mm.
go to planet being destroyed.
Much more arbitrary than Q, really.
Just to expand.
He's just so awful
Just to,
until the end.
just to expand.
Well-
Just to expand on something too, because Steve and I got to have a lot of fun with that little joke during the episode itself. Just the Wrath of Khan reference. You can't help but do it. But it really fit here this time because it was that reveal, like
Mhm.
Admiral Riker, the incredulity of like what?
It makes sense
And,
as an admiral, though.
Yeah. No, I mean, but we've never seen him like that in any other timeline. I don't think, right? I mean,
No, we
Yeah.
haven't seen it. The future 10 forward scene where Picard's ranting and Data gets it. Loved that. I laughed out loud, and I don't know if you noticed this, but as Data's explaining the rant, there are two actors right behind them at a table behind them in the background. It's a man and a woman that just look at them and go, and they get up and they walk out.
Gets what was he explaining?
As Data's explaining what crazy old Picard's rantings mean, like, oh, he might have a point. There's two actors in the back. I swear, they actually glance at the main
You can
characters.
almost hear them say, "Okay, boomers," as they walk by.
Like, the young guy in the corridor that we agreed was a jerk. It was them in 10 forward.
Wow.
Okay, I'm done. And leave it.
This nonsense?
We're leaving 10 forward because we don't want to listen to you anymore.
Well, because it is the thing we talked about, man, the fake science thing, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to say this mumbo jumbo. Oh, you know what? That makes sense, because then we just do this mumbo jumbo thing. It's like, all right, yep.
It was just such a
Not
background.
no mumbo jumbo or magic.
You saw it?
Yeah.
It was so good.
But only on Blu-ray. You wouldn't get that otherwise.
I know. I was really trying to watch the backgrounds because I knew like the set upgrades. And in 10 forward, I'm like, oh, what's changed about 10 forward? So that's probably the only reason I noticed them. I was a little out of the story. I admit I wasn't fully engaged, but man, it was so good. It was so. I'm so glad that's there for future rewatches. The Riker olive branch to Worf as they leave 10 forward about we could use an extra hand.
Oh.
Like Riker and Worf aren't ever gonna talk it out because that's not them. But between that and that final poker thing, where they're like, we got to make sure this doesn't happen, and Riker kind of looks at Worf, and Worf like nods and agrees. It's just like, oh, these two have made the decision that they're gonna be okay with each other and be good friends going forward, and I love that so much.
All right, now, so I had a note about
And nothing in New Trek ever negates that. I will say that. I don't think it's a spoiler.
as far as I feel so it felt like Worf tried to do that a couple of times. So was that in one of those alternate timelines where it didn't actually happen? Like one of the bigger episodes toward the beginning of that relationship where the time slipping with Worf and
I remember that.
okay.
Returning from a batleth competition on.
Yes.
Was there some?
That episode
Yeah, but was there some? Didn't he like try to ask Riker a couple
He
times?
asked his permission in an alternate timeline.
Okay,
He never
so that's
talked to
right.
him. That's why in this
It's,
episode he's like, we should talk to Riker
All
at the
right,
beginning.
all right. That's my note was. Was it like in this time?
I think they both made a commitment in this episode that no matter what happens, we're not going to let her come between us. I thought of you, Keith, when Picard says they need to stop the singularity here. I really thought of you because I really wanted him to say, the line must be drawn here. No further. Yar died again when the ship blows up.
Sort of. You know, like everybody died.
I mean, yeah, but who cares about everybody else? It's Yar died again. Q said the quote, all good things must come to an end. And I am glad, though, this episode is
Love
just
it.
titled all good things ... That is much more powerful than if all good things just come to an end. Even if I'm not upset that Q said the whole thing.
He got to drop like all kinds. Well, twice.
Yeah.
A couple of titular lines were just a lot of fun.
Favorite Q moment for the entire series is when Picard thanks him.
Ooh,
And he says,
that was so satisfying.
thanks for what? That
was good.
And I agree with Steven, the trial never ends. That was such a great moment.
Yes.
But yeah, Picard thanking Q, that is my favorite Picard Q moment in the entire series.
Yep.
Easily. Q's mouth near Picard's ear. When Picard asks him that thing and he leans forward like he's going to say something and then he just pulls back. And then Keith was like, oh, did he kiss him? I looked down. That just the mouth near the ear started to mouth.
I missed.
Not just like
missed it.
he started to mouth something. I really liked that. And then we go back to the beginning. Back to the beginning of the book ending of the trials and everything was so good. And back to the beginning of the Worf Troy coming out and seeing Picard. Even though, again, I wanted to be like, it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, whatever. And then Picard told them all. I love that. The poker scene, all the lines in the poker scene, sky's the limit has been used again in Trek as like, that's a pivotal line.
I didn't know that.
The poker scene's perfect. I was teary.
Yeah, that final overhead pull away shot of the table, like I have that as a big poster on the wall in my living room.
Hey, nice.
The new one or the old one? You should put them side by side.
The old
You
one.
you should put the new one side by side. Anyway, not to get into that. But
If this was episode 15 of the season, would we feel would you have those? Would we have those feels?
No.
What do you mean?
No.
Like
The
this
finale.
is episode 15 of the season. You knew there were 12 more in this season.
The fact.
Well, in a way,
Oh,
it
of the
is because
season,
there's a
not the
movie in
series.
theaters in
Right.
6 months.
Yeah,
That's the
there is that.
ellipsis.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
The movie should have been called "Must Come to an End."
Oh.
DS9 did that. They did the like beginning episode title ... and then the second part was the other part of the quote. I can't remember now.
It was Gambit ... part 2.
No.
No, that's a TNG.
No, I swear DS9 did it though. No, I'm not gonna be able to
No,
find
don't do it. Don't
For
do
the
it.
war was
Just
hollow ...
wait. We get.
Right.
And part 2 was, and I had.
For I have, and then part 3 touched the.
There is definitely a DS9 episode that ends with an ellipsis when it rains,
Just one.
and there is definitely one that begins with an ellipsis, nor the battle to the strong. But they don't follow them.
No, I swore there's.
I'm glad we have
Fantastic.
fewer generic titles coming.
I really thought the balance of Picard needing to explain himself and just pushing forward the plot was really well done. Deciding what the balance was of actually figuring out.
Right.
You're right. DS9 does not have. I don't know.
That
Maybe
bad.
it's Discovery. I don't know. I swore there was some episode that did the. Anyway. Any other notes? Well, I have an alternate episode. Sorry, I didn't do.
Some.
My alternate episode was just I wish there was something about this because this was such a big story with like the whole existence getting wiped out. I wish there was something about this that echoed into like DS9 and maybe Voyager, changed the universe in some way. For instance, if Yar had lived and now we start the next episode of DS9 and she's just a main character on DS9.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Something cool to tie them together. I'm not saying Yar needed to be on DS9. I don't know that she would have fit, but just something like that. Like
makes
that.
sense.
And you gotta worry, you bring her in. What if she just wants to leave at the end of the season?
Right.
Well, that's just because they wrote her crappy. DS9 would not do that to her, especially once you get past season 1.
You got a point there.
DS9 actually
DS9
wrote
goes,
female
like, 30 deep.
characters.
Yeah.
The bench of actually developed DS9 characters is literally like 50 characters. It's insane.
I have just some very quick notes.
Yeah.
They're doing that grapevine tying at the beginning. I actually did that in a former, in one of my, I worked at a garden center.
Past
I actually
timeline?
did that.
Oh, okay.
So was it driving you crazy because they were doing it wrong?
The ones we did were very small compared to those. But
Okay. I know if it'd be like if you're watching a law show, you're like, that's not how that works.
But that I did. And they mentioned the Daystrom Institute twice, so I always enjoy that.
Yeah.
We're still going to get more mentions of that in the future.
Good.
It's a part of New Trek too.
You might have mentioned this, Jimmy, but all those cats. And,
I don't know if I did. He had so many cats.
I only saw 3, but yeah.
I will say Jezzel's probably so cranky because that house probably stinks. Like forever.
and Florence Pugh is going to play one of the cats.
What am I, hard of smelling?
Nicely done.
Maybe she actually doesn't have. She has
It's one of my favorite.
nasal blindness. She can't smell things. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Data probably could just turn that off.
I'm sure he could.
Sort asked Troy if she senses an alien presence on the ship. And I'm like, but
There's lots of aliens.
But then
It's just Mott.
she clarified by saying, well,
We need more. Why does it not come back for a new track?
Since everybody
Not in Picard season 3.
isn't already supposed to be on the ship. So cleaned it up.
Right.
If Mott was there, she would explain Riker's
Yeah,
haircut.
she's like, I already sense.
That would be a
Alright,
problem.
What's singing on the Enterprise D is on the patch door.
Yeah.
And that explains Beverly's haircut.
All right.
And then this also gets cleaned up when Picard says, Q, is there really any point to all of this? I wrote, no. There's not. But then again, they always, I mean, and it really he's acting existentially now in hindsight.
Yeah.
Because then when we get to The Trial Never Ends, it's the same thing. Like, what's the whole point of this?
I will give.
I can't tell you, which also makes sense because any godlike creature, well, they're not telling us either. But anyway. 30
Romulan warbirds are just feeling super neutral all of a sudden. So they had to get the neutral zone.
Obviously.
How about the flex of 30 warbirds? Let's send 15 ships.
The confused glances among the past crew were just like killing me. There's like in the far point crew,
Yeah.
like going like, what's he?
Yaren, Worf, and O'Brien.
Like
yeah.
what's he looking at? What's over there? That just love it.
Yeah. Enjoy.
But Brent Spiner has to have had the most fun of anyone in the series.
Oh, absolutely.
My God,
The
there's so
episode
many things.
Masks alone.
In the franchise.
Yeah.
Including more modern stuff.
Beloved Admiral Riker is Riker out, one word. Riker out.
Riker out.
Just done.
He's perfected it.
Love the squeezing the getting the band back together thing with just that future timeline too.
Oh, absolutely.
What was it? Oh,
I like Riker out. You're halfway to
Yeah.
a Reuben.
right.
That Star Trek Picard season 3 chose to follow the same plot line of All Good Things, though. It's weird that they basically hit a lot of this. It's just the same story.
Yeah.
Last night was the helmswoman on the Pasteur.
Yeah.
Was she she looked like
Instant Chilton?
she looked like the actress from Orange Is the New Black.
No, the actress is named Alison Brooks.
You're thinking of Kate Mulgrew?
No,
Oh my god!
Alison Brooks only has 6 IMDb credits. This is her final one.
No, I'm talking
Yeah,
about
because she died. How are you gonna do more after that?
I don't think Alison Brooks was dead.
yeah,
Because she blew up.
fantastic. I didn't do that on purpose. Oh my god, they're doing fantastic. I thought you were doing one of mine.
No,
That's
but-
fantastic.
So Shaun and I chose the spot. I was supposed to. The regular. Anytime. Let's get to the rankings. Who was your annoyance in this episode?
Ooh.
I had a hard time finding an annoyance.
Oh, I got mine.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Shaun.
That fellow, they couldn't tell Picard where to go without a sneer.
That's a good one.
Who is
You're
this?
speaking to a
The
legend,
guy
sir.
in the hallway, like,
Oh, go! Oh my, that's so
That's
good.
so
so
good. I
Oh.
actually don't have a definitive one. I'm
it's
tempted to
kind of
steal
like
yours.
the Seinfeld episode where George or Jerry, they're in LA and they're like, "Where are we? On Earth." And the guy just keeps walking. Like, what are you asking me for, idiot?
I really can't think of a better one, so I'm stealing Sean's because I don't have. I don't have any. I couldn't think of one.
Mine is the Farpoint people that are all like,
The whole thing going through.
and it's like, oh, these are the sophisticates that are judging us.
Hey, they've been through a lot,
that's-
okay?
that's-
Yeah,
I thought I thought you were talking about like the crew, but you're
Oh,
talking about
no. yeah, all the people
People
dressed
throwing
in the,
vegetables.
oh
in
no,
there.
that's
Slide.
actually pretty good.
Oh, the jury.
Yeah,
yeah,
sort of.
Okay.
Or the gallery. And,
The
like,
galley.
yeah, and just
I'm gonna steal that one. I think.
Did you have something though?
No, I hadn't gotten there yet. It
I
was-
mean, I
that's
thought
it
of
right
Yar
there.
for a minute because she kept like batting up against Picard, but
No,
her behavior makes total sense. Her behavior, I can't fault her.
A little annoying that Leah Brahms would marry George.
You know what? Change your mind. Change your mind to Leah Brahms. Or whoever. No, I'm not changing to Leah Brahms. Whoever wrote that Leah Brahms married Geordi.
There it is. There it is.
I'm changing it. That is absolutely.
Ronald D. Moore, we're sorry.
Well, somebody pitched. I read recently that it
Send
was
your complaints
a
to Jimmy and
sensitive, bitter version of Leah that married Geordi,
Oh.
and then he just used his DNA and took out the Y chromosome for the daughters.
Because Voyager's been back for 20 years at this point.
Right. So it probably is the holographic Leah Brahms married Geordi. Who are we having a drink with? This one's tough.
I don't know if I've done it every time, but probably I'm having drinks with the cats.
Oh, yes.
Data's cats. Lord Data's cats.
I wrote down Riker and Worf because just their friendship touched me so much and their commitment to stay friends. And I'm like, they're going to have a drink. I want to have a drink with them. Enjoy and join them.
I'm going with
So I guess Woker? Woker?
doesn't matter.
So Woker? Woker? Or
That's the problem with this.
Or Rife. Woker? I'm gonna put Woker because that is the way we need to make their name.
I'm going with Future Geordie. Vineyard Geordie. That was so awesome.
Best improvement of a character.
Well, not just, but just that kind of like, what do you it's like?
What do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
Get some data? Sure.
Like exactly. It was just like let's. All right, I'm
The
here.
neighborhood.
I'm down. Let's. All right, let's go do this thing.
Let's definitely make this Data's problem.
Be loyal to this guy, and it doesn't matter what he says. Until he's dead, I'm gonna do what he asks. I liked that. I mean, I have hated Geordie for most of the series. Not because of LeVar Burton. He's been so poorly written. I think he's better written in the films, but
He's got some tough moments.
He's been so poorly written. LeVar Burton deserved so much better than
Yeah,
what we got.
certainly.
And I think this episode actually did decent by Jordy. So, who are you having a drink?
If I can only have a drink with one, it's going to be Q. But if I can take my drink anywhere I want, I'm sitting down at that poker table.
I mean, we'll give you the poker table if that's what
All
you
right.
want. That's a good answer. You're the Ben that just comes in and they all welcome him like he's always been there.
Hey, Mott, what are you doing here?
You're always invited. That was
Mott was
Where have you
always
been?
invited.
Yeah.
That was such good lines, but
Yeah.
you were always invited. I should have come a long time ago. You were always invited.
Mm.
That's up there with some of the best lines of the series for sure. If not, ranking the episode, I think we should just start at the top of the season. Yeah.
I think so.
Right now, the top is Lower Decks. Better or worse
Wow.
than Lower Decks. Lower Decks was
Wow.
an amazing episode.
Going better, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I think so.
Yeah, you think it's better than Lower Decks?
Just
And you're just like, nope, just all the way down, just like.
extra.
Oh, I'm going to make the stock go down.
You think it's better than Lower Decks?
This is the best episode of the series for me, let alone the season.
but
My
still worth the
my
lower
second
decks.
ranked episode would be Parallels. Where do you have that in your...
Parallels.
That's up there.
What's that?
Hang on. Parallels is fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna.
Two is
He's
Lower
just
Decks.
so funny in that episode.
We'll get into. I'm looking at all the number ones across the seasons, and I think I'm gonna agree this is number one of the series. But
No kidding.
yeah, I had a couple issues with it, but I mean, Chain of Command Part 2 is probably the one that gives it the closest run for its
I
money.
got no problem with that. That's
But
I don't remember that one. Yet.
for this season, it's All Good Things number 1, Lower Decks 2, 3 Pegasus. Enterprise fans would be happy to hear that. I'm totally gonna rewatch that before the finale of Enterprise for sure. 4 Preemptive Strike.
Oh, that one's excellent.
5 Parallels.
Preemptive
The
Strike would
Row.
probably be my 3.
Yeah. The Row episode was so good.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, Lower Decks was just so good. I mean, they built a whole cartoon off of it now. If there wasn't that episode, there wouldn't be the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you?
Probably.
I mean, how much do? I mean, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm not saying nobody would have thought of it, but selling it to the studio and stuff,
Alright.
that episode
Alright.
sells the cartoon.
All right.
Fair.
Yeah. Next week, Shaun probably won't be joining us, though you're welcome to. Next week, we're breaking down season 7 of The Next Gen. Best, worst, wrapping up the season. The week after that, we're going to talk Next Gen as a whole, the whole series, and compare it, whether we think it's better than the animated series or not, because, you know, we're going to rank it which Star Trek series. Right now, TOS is in number 1 and animated's number
Right
2.
there, number 2.
How's it possible?
I think it's quite likely Next Gen could be below the animated. I can't even say that.
Significantly fewer cat people.
That is to its detriment. Steve, that argument might convince
there's no
Steven
more
to
us here.
rank animated above. Until then, live long.
And that's a wrap on. Oh wait, we got the movies. And
4. Only 4, not 6.
Well,
And it's all been tracked already.
So far.
so far.
Yes.
That's true. Patrick Stewart's asking for another one. We'll see.
He's all gassed up.
It's all been done. You see, it's all been tracked.
It
So
has been. I saw
Yes,
it all.
I saw it all. I saw everything. Everything.
Dot, dot.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?